You're listening to WHIP.
.22 is the time, the WHIP studio, Temple Sports Hour. John, Cole, Kevin Rowley here until 1 o'clock. And Kevin, it is April now.
It is.
It is April here.
Baseball season.
Baseball season's right around the corner. First game's Monday for the Philadelphia Phillies against the Boston Red Sox, Citizens Bank Park. And we are lucky to have on the phone with us right now Philadelphia Inquirer writer who's been in Clearwater the past month, Matt Breen. Matt, how's it going?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Matt. And one question before we start off: are you still in Clearwater right now?
Yeah, I'm outside the ballpark now. The game starts at 1, and then we'll be getting on a flight afterwards and heading back home.
Are you a little upset about that?
Not really. I mean, I miss home. I've been away for 6 weeks, so.
I understand that.
I love Philly, so I want to get home.
I don't blame you, but you haven't missed much here weather-wise. It's been cold. We've had significant.
That's the one good thing. It's been nice down here, but I mean, the weather will suck not being here, but everything else will be great.
Well, lucky for you, today's probably been the nicest day of spring here. In Philadelphia, it's about mid-60s. So you're coming into some nice weather considering the past month.
Yeah, I just heard that.
It's been terrible, but
it's been brutal.
Let's go right into the Philadelphia Phillies talk. You've been down there this past month, and let's talk about it right now. Despite yesterday's impressive 9-2 victory over the Braves, it seems like runs have really been tough to come by over spring training, and I think that's kind of a preview of the season as well. But what's been the most promising thing you've seen this past month for the Philadelphia Phillies? And give me one player that's really exceeded expectations so far down there.
I mean, I guess you guys know Cole Hamels, obviously, he's having a pretty good spring, but that's expected. The thing I'm most looking forward to the season starts is watching Odubel Herrera. He's been really good this spring, and he was a guy that they got in the Rule 5 draft in December, and he's actually going to make his major league debut in the starting lineup on opening day, which has happened twice since 1970 with the Phillies. So that's the one guy that, a lot of Phillies fans will be interested in watching, keeping an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone seems to be looking forward to him. But, it seems like there's almost a million question marks with this Philadelphia Phillies team going into this year. You look at the rotation, you look at who's going to be moved, who's not going to be moved. And the one thing I want to ask you about first, though, is the starting rotation. You do have Cole Hamels, who I think most analysts would agree he's a top 10 pitcher in baseball, correct? At least.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe, I don't think top 5, but he's definitely top 10. And he's obviously a valuable asset to this Philadelphia Phillies team. And outside of him, the rotation certainly is weak. And, I wonder, though, with this number 5 spot in the rotation, who's going to get that starting spot?
I mean, that's the big question mark, but it's not. It comes to the point that it really doesn't matter that much because it's not 4 years ago, the teams winning 100 games, you need to know the fifth starter is. But now it could be Sean O'Sullivan. I thought it was going to be Kevin Stillelli, but they cut him 2 days ago. It's probably going to be Sean O'Sullivan, but when the team loses 100 games, it could be anybody. And that could be a role that switches throughout the year, too.
Hey, Matt, this is Kevin Rowley. Thanks for coming on. I just wanted to ask you about Cole Hamels. He's been talked about in trade rumors for season after season now. What can we possibly expect optimistically in a trade for Cole Hamels? Are we looking at kind of a high-risk, high-reward type prospect, like another Tommy Joseph, something like that?
No, I think if you're the Phillies, like what John said, that Cole Hamels is at least a top 10 pitcher, if not a top 5 pitcher, that you got to get, it's not Tommy Joseph, you got to get someone else's number 1, number 2 prospect back. And that's what they're going to try to do. They wanted to do that with the Red Sox, but the Red Sox, they have business to run too, so they're trying to send what they want to send. And the Phillies will be patient, and then once the team in July comes and you're hunting for the postseason, just like the Phillies did to get Cliff Lee in 2009, someone else will do that with Cole Hamels, barring that he stays healthy and has a great year. You'll get a real nice return at the deadline.
Do you think Amar's asking for way too much for Hamels?
Nah, not at all. Look, it's Cole Hamels. It's not just like some veteran journeyman. This is an ace who's under contract for a few more years at affordable price. You're not getting a rental. He's worth what they're going to get, and they're going to get a nice package, I'm sure, in July, unless, what I said earlier, he gets hurt or, some other circumstances happen. But that's what I would just be patient, watch them for a couple more months, and then hope that they can get some position players. So they have a nice farm of pitchers. They just need to get a couple more position players.
Now, a question: if Cole Hamels stays healthy, he pitches like he has, in most of his tenure here in Philadelphia, will he be on the team this whole season?
The only way is if he's on the team the whole season is they shock the world and they're competing for the pennant, which isn't going to happen, or they just can't get what they want back. But then you have the winter meeting, next year, and that's maybe where you trade them. But they're rebuilding. They've been open about rebuilding, and I would bet the house that he's going to be gone at the trade deadline.
Is there anyone on this team besides Hamels that has real trade value? I mean, obviously we have a good bunch of bullpen pitchers. Maybe if Charlie has, a solid sort of comeback season. I mean, he was an all-star last year, but if he's consistent, a second baseman don't come around too often.
Yeah, but you got a closer, which is a top flight closer in Papelbon, and that's a trade deadline piece that teams are going to want. If you're the Washington Nationals and you're going for the pennant, the closer's a little shaky. You might give up a couple prospects to get a guy like Papelbon. They have pieces on this team that they might not. They're missing a lot of pieces here, but they still have some pieces that pennant teams can want. It's not like a total team of junk. There's a lot of key pieces that teams might want to trade for at the deadline.
Now, it seems like, Matt, the Philadelphia Phillies are going to be one of the worst teams in baseball, if not the worst. And I guess the one strong thing, and one thing I'm looking forward to, I think the bullpen's not too bad. And, everyone's looking forward to Ken Giles, and he's looked really well so far. But the other day he goes down with an injury. Can you talk about that? Is it significant at all, or is there nothing to worry about as a Philadelphia Phillies fan?
He said today that he didn't throw off a mound, but he threw off flat ground. So, more so he played catch today, which was a big checkpoint that he had to do before he's ready. He doesn't sound like he's going to go on the DL. He sounds like he'll be ready come Monday at opening day. You might see him pitch this weekend at the On Deck series, but if not, it sounds like everything's good with him. And it was when he left the game, my first thought was his elbow or his arm because he throws 100 miles an hour. So that was a big thing, but it's mild back strain. He played it off like it's not a big deal, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Are you looking forward to seeing any big prospects coming up this year? We've seen a little of Maikel Franco. We've seen some Jesse Biddle. What do you think in the way of prospects this season?
Yeah, I think I'm not so much that they're going to come up this year, but you'll see like at Double-A, they could come up this year. I could be wrong, but you got Aaron Nola, Zach Eflin, and Jesse Biddle all supposed to start. We'll find out tonight. Supposed to start the season at Double-A with really good rotation. So, if this team's as bad as we say it's going to be, and keep an eye on Redding and just try to get some enjoyment and watch in the future. Because we saw Nolan, Eflin, and Biddle pitch this spring, and they all look good. So that's what I'm really interested in watching that. For the first time in a while, you have some prospects and pitchers to keep an eye on and, just check the box scores and stuff like that down there.
Joining us on WHIP right now, Philadelphia Inquirer staff writer Matt Breen, who's down in Clearwater right now as we speak. Nice enough to give us a couple minutes here on Temple Sports Hour. Another prospect I want to know about, are we going to see any of J.P. Crawford this year?
No. He's hurt right now with an oblique strain, but he's going to start the season in Clearwater, which is high A. So he would have to go from Clearwater when he starts, a couple weeks into their season, up to Reading and then Lehigh Valley. So I would expect him, maybe a year or two away from being in the infield for the Phillies.
What do you think of Cliff Lee this year? Do you think he's played his last game as a Philly?
If I was betting on it, I'd say yeah. But he could come back late in the season, maybe to prove, because he's not going to be on the Phillies next year. But he might come back in the season and make a couple of starts in August or September, whenever that timetable for his injury is over, and just to prove that he's a team taking a flyer on next season.
One of the many things Philadelphia Phillies fans seem to be kind of angry with right now with the starting lineup, you see that Ben Revere, a lot of people are angry because he's a leadoff hitter and, such a low on-base percentage. He does have a higher batting average. He hits over 300, but other than that, he cannot draw walks or anything else. Is that top spot in the lineup for him? Is he definitely going to be hitting number one all the time this year?
I would expect him to. We actually had this conversation yesterday, a couple of us, and I would expect him to be there Monday at opening day at bat and leadoff. But within a month or so, I would say it's very possible that a Jubal Herrera, if he has a great a great first month, he takes over that top spot.
Considering Ryan Howard is getting paid, $25 million a year, and they've talked about trading him and eating most of that contract, do you think it's even worth trading him, considering all the money they have to eat?
Well, if you can find somebody, I think they don't want to eat the money. That's the problem. You want to get someone to take the $25 million, or at least take 17 of the 25. But if you can get a team to do that and give you a couple prospects, they would definitely make that trade, I'm sure. But right now, I think the problem is they're trying to get a team to maybe, stay on the hook for his $25 million.
The offense has been so poor in the spring training, and, we don't expect a ton from it this year, but Chase Utley's been playing fairly well as of late. Your colleague, Jay Kaplan, tweeted out this morning 4 hours ago, Chase Utley is the second least spring training at-bats with 29 and among the Phillies. And, and you figure, he's had 4 home runs, which leads the team. Is it to the point where Chase Utley might even lead the team in home runs?
He could if he stays healthy, right? And if he said yesterday he wants to monitor his days off. Sandberg says he's going to monitor his days off. We've heard that in the past. Easier said than done, but if he can do that, stay healthy, then there's no telling. And Jake Stat, he stole that from me, by the way. But I'll let him go.
So Chase Utley, do you think there's any chance he does get traded? Considering, they did trade Jimmy Rollins. Is Chase Utley more? I guess he has similar value, but is he more untradeable?
Yeah, they have no trade clauses. Rollins waived his to go to L.A. I don't see Utley waiving his no trade clause. And I think he's, as this rebuild comes, he'll be like the one steady piece that stays. And if they're good 3 years from now, he might not be here anymore. I don't know if he'll still be playing, but I just don't expect him to get traded.
Joining us on WHIP right now, staff writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Matt Breen, who's in Clearwater, Florida right now, getting ready. The Philadelphia Phillies are going to be taking on, they're playing some baseball at 1 o'clock, so only a couple more minutes here. We don't want to hold you up too long, Matt. But this season, you got to expect they're going to be one of the worst teams in baseball. A lot of people projecting they could have 100 losses, which would lead you to believe they'd be the worst team. And the last time the Philadelphia Phillies had the first overall pick in the MLB draft was 1998, and they took Pat the Bat Burrell. And is it to the point where Philadelphia Phillies fans should kind of root for them to be the worst record, maybe get the best prospects this year?
Yeah, but it's not like the NBA draft where you're watching these guys in March and saying who you want the Sixers to go after. Like the first, round could be, you could get a guy in the end of the first round that's just as good as the number 1 pick or better. Like Mike Trout was the number 1 pick. It really is just how you, what you do with those picks wherever you get them, and everybody could really have the same draft. So, but it's worth, I guess, looking at mock drafts, seeing who's in that top 10 range and what kind of guys they can get.
That's fair enough. So one more question before we get on out of here, Matt. For the Philadelphia Phillies, what do we expect to see this year? Give me some players that, maybe some pleasant surprises. Who's someone that really look forward to watching? Because despite, the changes, it seemed like the Phillies added the burger. That's 9 patties or something on that. I know the Philadelphia Phillies are adding wine and hard liquor to the stands. What on the field should we be looking forward to, Matt?
You got Herrera, like I said, so keep an eye on him. And then Freddie Galvis, he's using a heavier bat, so that's supposed to slow his swing down a little bit, less pop-up. He popped up 40 times last year, and 4 of them were homers. So that was pretty frustrating. So maybe if the heavy bat works. And then I like the bullpen a lot. So keep an eye on Justin DeFreitas, Ken Giles, and Jake Teichman, and just see how they develop in their second really full season in baseball.
Ryan Howard.
And everything else, we'll see what happens.
Ryan Howard was actually top 5 in the National League in RBIs last year. I know, albeit he led the MLB in strikeouts, but can we look forward to little Ryan Howard? Do you think he could duplicate that? Maybe another top 5 season in RBIs. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, he lost weight. He lost fitter. Might have some stuff off his mind after what happened in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. So maybe he'll have a good season, and it's definitely worth watching him and Chase Utley, see how they kind of, now that they're veteran ball players, and they've been for a while now, but just see how they kind of that and see if they can do anything.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for a couple minutes here on WHIP. We look forward to hearing from you again sometime in the near future. And when you go back to Northeast Philadelphia, you're going to grab a Steve Steaks first thing?
Yes. We have Wawa down here, so I don't miss that, but I definitely need a Steve Steak and a trip to Franco Mills.
Trip to don't you mean Philadelphia Mills now?
I'm not calling it that. Come on, dude.
I don't blame you. Same thing here. Myself and Kevin Rowley are both Northeast Philly residents. We know that it's Franklin Mills and always will be.
Yes, sir.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us here on WHIP. You're more than welcome anytime. And have fun down there. Enjoy the weather in Clearwater one more day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much. All right, that was Matt Breen of the Philadelphia Inquirer.